right, yes, so thank you. I'm Ellie Owens. I'm the Vice President and a co-founder of E2Gold. We are a junior gold exploration company focused in North Central Ontario. And what we're trying to do is take a resource, grow it to 2 to 3 million ounces of gold with room to grow, send it on its way to a miner. We're not looking to be miners ourselves, and we're sort of looking to do this in a pretty quick time frame, five-ish years sort of thing. That's our overall thesis. Before we get into the project, a little bit about the share structure. 95 million shares outstanding, a pretty tightly held share structure. 15% insiders, 23% high net worth individuals, and 27% funds. That's 9 separate funds, and we're very proud of that fund holding. We are a year and a half old as a company, went public less than a year ago, and so to have that much fund representation, we're pretty proud of that. Crescat is our largest shareholder with over 11%. So the project itself, or projects, is focused in North Central Ontario, as I said. Predominantly, our focus is the Hawkins Gold Project. It's just west of Timmins there. We do have the Bandor project that we just optioned in October. We staked the Copperfield and Strathern claims as well, but our focus is this Hawkins Gold Project right here. It is 80 kilometers long, 540 square kilometers, so it's very large, lots of different geologic targets on it. But our focus is the McKinnon Inferred Resource right in the center there. That resource is 43101 compliant, but it is based on 1980s drilling by Falconbridge. It is 6.2 million tons, grading 1.65 grams per ton for 328,000 ounces of gold. So not a lot of gold, but it's certainly a good starter for our exploration focus. It is at surface down to about 125 meters. So it's relatively shallow, really hasn't been drill tested below that. So that's really where the opportunity of growth lies. It's about 15 to 25 meters wide, so it's a pretty substantial width for such a new resource. A little bit about the region and why we're situated in an area that we think is great for the project. The Hawkins Gold Project is this star right here. This is a regional map. You can see Hemlo over here. All of these red dots represent very large gold-producing mines. And they all sit on the north or south limb of these regional shear structures here, represented by the purple. And as you can see, Hawkins also sits in one of those limbs. Shares that regional trend with Hemlo. And that's important because our mineralization is pretty much, is relatively the same as the Hemlo mine, and so this is the analog that we're using for conceptual purposes. Aside from the geology, the region is also good for the other mines that are in the area. We consider this area in orange here to be an emerging gold mining district. We have, of course, some very historic mining camps over here, Timmins, Hemlo over on the west here. But these orange dots represent mines that have either been rediscovered or newly discovered and brought into production in the past 15 years alone, 26 million ounces of gold. And that's relevant because our McKinnon resource is based on drilling that occurred 40 years ago. So in a much more recent time, there's been a lot of activity, which means that we can reassess this project with new geologic understanding, new investor interest, and new technology. And that's really where the opportunity lies for the Hawkins Gold Project and for the McKinnon Inferred Resource. So focusing in on the geology itself a bit more, we just had a regional view about why we like Hawkins and McKinnon, and now we're going to look at the sort of drill core view here. We've got a photo of our high-grade drill core right here. This is a quartz sericite schist. You can see lots of coarse-grained quartz veins, blebby pyrite. Why that's relevant, quartz always represents flooding events, hydrothermal events. That's what brings gold in. So we see multiple of those events. That's important, but it's also important because, as I said, it's the same mineralization that we see at Hemlo. And so that comparison is relevant when you try to conceptualize our drill program that I'm going to tell you about. So same region. We also have very similar geochemical signatures. And so focusing a bit more on the resource itself too, this is a bird's eye view looking down at the surface trace of our resource. The McKinnon Zone in red here, it's 3.5 kilometers long. And I'm going to tell you about what's been done on it and what we're going to do on it going forward. So the gray dots here represent the Falconbridge drilling of the 1980s. The yellow represents our drill program in the winter, in February. What we did was a conformational drill program. We twinned a bunch of holes, or sort of twinned a bunch of holes, and we chased down some of the high-grade zones to get a better understanding of the geometry and the structure. And now what we're doing in our drill program, now that we have a good handle on the geology, we're now starting to step out from what's known of the resource. And so that's this current drill program. This current drill program we're doing started in July. It is 10,000 meters. We've completed 7,000 meters, or over 7,000 meters, so we're 3/4 of the way through this drilling program. And the main target, there's 3 separate targets, but the main target that we're very excited about is this relatively large step-out program that's represented by these red dots here. So what we're looking at on this slide is a longitudinal section, a slice through the earth. We're looking at the side view of the resource in purple. This is the McKinnon resource here. You can see its surface down to about 125 meters, and we've superimposed it onto the outline of the Hemlo mine. That's the Hemlo mine in yellow right there. All of these yellow, that's what's been mined out. And the purpose of that is to, A, give you an idea of how shallow this resource really is, 125 meters compared to 2 kilometers. But also to give you an idea of why we're doing the type of drilling we're doing right now. So you can see Hemlo is quite variable in terms of where the high-grade zones are. And what we want to do with our resource is really understand the potential footprint before we go in and start building the resource with lots of drill rigs. So to understand that footprint, we're going to target 500 meters. And that's about 350 to 400 meters below what we know of the resource. And we're going to do a statistical style of drilling. So we're going to drill 10 to 12 holes equally spaced apart, 300 meters apart. And the idea being that if there's something big down there, 1 or 2 of those holes should hit. Had we done sort of 3 holes, one of them, there was a good chance that it would miss given the variability in these deposits. So we have already completed all of the black holes in this drill program. As you can see, we are also doing some shallow step outs. We've completed those black holes, and we are waiting on assays as everybody else is in the industry right now. I can say visually we've seen the same characteristics that we saw in the gold zone that is actually the resource. So we have seen some good visual geologic characteristics and are waiting for assays on those holes. So beyond what we're doing currently for drilling, we are also developing drill targets off of the McKinnon Zone. So the McKinnon Zone sits right here. This is the central 15 kilometers of our property package. The McKinnon Zone right here, 3.5 kilometers long. And so what we're doing now is starting to test along strike of the zone. And to start developing those drill targets, we are going to be conducting some IP in this block here, IP in this block here, and IP here. And that will start to develop those drill targets off of the zone, which is relevant when you want to consider a risk management strategy for exploration programs. And finally, what we're doing, so this is the entire property package here. This is orange and gray. Those are both our property packages. The orange is just what we staked recently to triple our property package. So you see the central 15 kilometers we just looked at right here, the McKinnon Zone right here, and what we're looking at here is the airborne survey that we just completed 2 weeks ago, and these are the results of that airborne survey. So that is the first step in developing drill targets on that western claim block. The second step will be IP, and then we will hopefully start drilling there by the end of next year. So that's generally the story. We're working on expanding that footprint of the McKinnon Zone before trying to build the resource, and we are developing targets off of the resource to start ensuring that, in case McKinnon isn't as big as we want it to be, we know there's a certain amount of gold there. If it doesn't turn out to be as big as we want it to be, we're developing those targets off of the resource as well. And that's the E2Gold story. Are there any questions? Happy to answer.